So what initially seemed like a joke with Trump wanting to have Canada become the 51st state of the United States, claiming that Trudeau, prior to his resignation, was really Governor Trudeau, and discussed applying economic pressures to bring Canada in. Since we're already paying this money, we're providing protection. They're supplying about 20% manufacturing with regard to the vehicles that we bring into the United States, which we don't need. He says that we can make these things in Detroit. He goes on to further elaborate during some questioning in a press conference today specific to this point. Watch this.
Listen, I don't care what he says.
Sir, real fast, you were considering military force to acquire Panama and Greenland. Are you also considering military force to annex and acquire Canada?
No, economic force, because Canada and the United States, that would really be something. You get rid of that artificially drawn line, and you take a look at what that looks like, and it would also be much better for national security. Don't forget, we basically protect Canada. But here's the problem with Canada. So many friends up there. I love the Canadian people. They're great. But we're spending hundreds of billions a year to protect it. We're spending hundreds of billions a year to take care of Canada. We lose in trade deficits. We're losing massive. We don't need their cars. You know, they make 20% of our cars. We don't need that. I'd rather make them in Detroit. We don't need the cars. We don't need their lumber. We have massive fields of lumber. We don't need their lumber. We have to unrestrict them because stupid people put, restrictions on, but I can do that with an executive order. We don't need anything they have. We don't need their dairy products. We have more than they have. We don't need anything. So why are we losing $200 billion a year and more?
And Canada is not the only country in the sights of Donald Trump. As many of you know, Greenland has been brought up in discussion very, very much so recently as well. Buying it from Denmark, potentially, as the people of Greenland have said they want to detach themselves from Denmark and would much rather be aligned with the United States, especially an incoming strong Trump administration. And as a matter of fact, Trump spoke to this at the same press conference as well. Watch this clip.
Well, we need Greenland for national security purposes. I've been told that for a long time, long before I even ran. I mean, people have been talking about it for a long time. You have approximately 45,000 people there. People really don't even know if Denmark has any legal right to it. But if they do, they should give it up because we need it for national security. That's for the free world. I'm talking about protecting the free world. You don't even need binoculars. You look outside, you have China ships all over the place. You have Russian ships all over the place. We're not letting that happen. We're not letting it happen. And if Denmark wants to get to a conclusion, but nobody knows if they even have any right, title, or interest. The people are going to probably vote for independence or to come into the United States. But if they did do that, then I would tariff Denmark at a very high level.
And to take it even a step further with regard to Greenland, both Charlie Kirk and Donald Trump Jr. actually flew to Greenland and shared some video today on social media, on X and a couple other platforms. Check this out. Watch this.
Should we get into the interview?
Very nice to meet you. How are you? Pleasure. How's it going, guys? We're a little pressed for time because we only have a couple hours of daylight, so we got to see everything, but we're really excited to be here. Thank you guys so much. Just here as tourists, seeing it, looks like an incredible place. We've been talking about going for a while. I was actually supposed to be here last spring for some of the stuff I do in my free time, but just really excited to be here. Awesome country. The scenery coming in was just spectacular. So just very excited to be here. Thank you. Guys, it's about 3:30 in the afternoon. Sun's already setting. We're in Greenland. Incredible experience.
Amazing day.
Just absolutely awesome. Going all the way to the end of the runway, and we're going to have to do a full thrust takeoff. Obviously, not many big planes coming into Nuuk Airport in Greenland. It's a balmy 22 degrees out, so pretty epic day, right, Charlie?
Oh, it's unbelievable. By the way, they love America here.
They love America. They love Trump.
They love it.
They want to utilize their resources. Danish fake news has been doing a lot of anti-American sentiment, so that shouldn't surprise us, but let's go have some fun.
And where this all came together for me, and the reason why I'm bringing this up to you to begin with on today's episode, is the fact that I was studying something years ago that I had completely forgot about. And when I heard this go from a comedic perspective conversation to something much more serious and very real now, it seems like this is potentially going to happen. It started reminding me of these studies it started reminding me of some of these aspects. And what I'm about to show you is either going to position Donald Trump in a way, in your own perspective, because I'm not going to make up your mind for you, that he is either against this or he is in line with it and for it. And it'll all make sense in just a moment. So let me give you some context. Now, many of you have heard of the Club of Rome. Some of you have not. You've heard of other societies and organizations and think tanks, things like the World Economic Forum, the Bilderberg Group, Trilateral Commission. You've heard of all these various things that have been tossed around within the networks or within the framework of what would be a conversation among conspiracy theorists. Well, the Club of Rome is a think tank that is very high up on this pyramid. Some say it is actually the top of the chain, if you will. And in 1968, when this think tank was founded, they proposed dividing the world up into 10 regions as part of a global governance framework or system that they wanted to put in place. And these regions, according to their vision, would be these 10. There would be North America, Western Europe, Japan, Australia and New Zealand would be one. Eastern Europe and Russia would be a fifth. Latin America would be 6. North Africa and the Middle East would be 7. Sub-Saharan Africa, 8. 9 would be South and Southeast Asia, and number 10 would be China. Now, number 1, as North America, this specific region would include none other than, you guessed it, United States, Canada, and Greenland. This division isn't just geopolitical, it's political. So what's the goal of the Club of Rome? Not Donald Trump's plan, but the Club of Rome. It is to centralize control over resources, economies, and even populations. So critics of the Club of Rome argue that this is not just about sustainability or solving global problems, but it's really about creating a new world order. And this is where nations would lose their sovereignty and individuals lose their freedoms. So here's where things get interesting in all of this, okay? So strategically, Greenland is placed in the Arctic, and it would become part of North America, or the North American bloc in this model, okay? Granting control over vital Arctic resources. Trump's obviously his keen interest in Greenland, going as far as to buy this out from Denmark. We're simply thinking ahead in this. Could it be for these economic reasons, or could it have been for countering the Club of Rome's plans to include these nations into this first initial block, putting it as number 1 of these 10 regions? Now, here's the other aspect of this. When you think of these 10 regions, when you think of these 10 kingdoms, as some people within the Club of Rome actually coined these to be, you have to actually start giving it some validity and some weight now to the conversation in connection with the book of Revelation in the Bible. Because in the book of Revelation, which many people see as a roadmap to the end times, Revelation 17, 12, and 13 says, the 10 horns which you saw are the 10 kings who have not yet received a kingdom, but they have received authority as kings with the beast for 1 hour. They have one purpose, and they gave their power and authority to the beast. So many interpretations basically say that these 10 kings of a future world divided into these regions is what the Club of Rome is essentially putting together. And these 10 kings who hand their power over to the beast, with the beast symbolically interpreted as the Antichrist. And so let's look at some of the evidence of this. Okay. Let's look to see if Trump's vision, I guess, could potentially be for something like this to occur or against it. Maybe he sees it ahead of time, has some people within the inner circle who are seeing this and are looking to potentially fight against this. So during his presidency, okay, Trump took office and took an America First stance, pushing back against globalist institutions like the UN, withdrawing from the Paris Climate Agreement. His actions seemed to align with anti-globalist sentiments. But then came 2 major moves. The Greenland Gambit, okay? Trump's proposal, obviously, to buy Greenland was dismissed by many as absurd. And Greenland holds a vast mineral wealth and strategic position in the Arctic. By bringing it under U.S. control, Trump would basically ensure that North America remains independent from any globalist plans for centralized resource management. And then at number 2, a North American alliance, Trump's renegotiation of NAFTA into the USMCA strengthened ties between the U.S., Canada, Mexico. Some would argue that this aligns with the Club of Rome's vision for a unified North American region. But what if Trump's goal was to keep this region sovereign and resistant to outside control? Got to think about that. So I want you to think, could these moves basically be read as Trump playing both sides? On one hand, he's consolidating North America, potentially aligning with the Club of Rome's network and framework. But on the other hand, he's fortifying it against globalist influence and the club's think tank motivation to create this into a place that they would control. And instead, he's basically playing chess and taking these over as a way for the free world to control. Okay, so here's where things kind of get a little weird. Is he playing savior here, or is he a player in the game? And so here's a couple things, couple vantage points I'll give you in perspective to this. Number 1, the anti-beast narrative. So Trump, aware of the 10 groups plan and its ties to the book of Revelation, let's just say hypothetically, is he working to dismantle this framework before it takes full shape by focusing on national sovereignty, strategic acquisition? He could be blocking the rise of centralized global governance. And the number 2, pro-beast narrative, on the flip side, what if he moves, intentionally or not, to setting the stage for the very system he might oppose by strengthening regional alliances and consolidating power? He could inadvertently be paving the way for the 10 kings of prophecy. So he could actually be, as his last name says, Trump, or some people say the last trumpet, be setting the stage for this to move into position. Now, I just saw a tweet that I wanted to share with you. This was coming out of Iranian media, and they're suggesting and saying that the world is on the verge of witnessing extraordinary events and developments in the coming hours. The world will witness unusual scenes and developments, according to Iranian media. What is being set here? Does that have any tie? Does that have any significance to any of what I'm telling you? Maybe not. But we have to look at all things. We have to analyze all things and then determine what this actually is interpreted to. So it's worth noting, obviously, Donald J. Trump has never publicly mentioned the Club of Rome, but his rhetoric has always been about draining the swamp and exposing globalists. That resonates with anti-globalist movements. So could he be playing a role that even he doesn't fully understand? Is this biblical? Is it already written? And what's taking place, whether for or against, it flows right into the script, if you will, for the end of days. So what does all this mean? If the Club of Rome's 10-region plan is real and tied to biblical prophecy, then every geopolitical move, whether it's buying Greenland, strengthening North America, or forming some type of global alliance, has deeper implications, significantly deeper implications. And if Trump is aware of this, he may be working to either block or reshape the plan in ways that it aligns with his vision of sovereignty and power. But the bigger question is, what role do we play in this narrative? Because whether you believe in Bible prophecy, global agendas, whether you believe in the simple power of strategic politics, it's clear that we live in a time where every decision echoes through history and things are coming in fast, man. So I just wanted to present that to you today. Just that quick little snapshot to give you some perspective on what's happening within this conversation of combining the U.S., Canada, and Greenland. The fact that the Club of Rome, their plan since 1972 that they came out with their framework, basically said they wanted to divvy up the world into 10 regions, the first region being the U.S., Canada, and Greenland, and that these 10 regions or 10 kingdoms then flow into biblical prophecy of Revelation chapter 17, verses 12 and 13 that say that these 10 kings or kingdoms would be giving their authority over to the beast, which is interpreted as the Antichrist. So is this all combining together and consolidating to create this centralized power control play to give over power and the rise of the Antichrist, as we know biblical prophecy suggests. Is that the connection here? Is that what this is? I'll leave that up for you to decide, but I want you to think about it, consider it with me, share this out far and wide, and until next time, continue to live in truth uncensored.